couple things that are really telling about what's going on in the market. We just heard Eddie's story about going to a house and cars lined up around the cul-de-sac. That's pretty commonplace right now in the market.
Yep.
I pulled out a couple stats just to give you an idea of some things that are going on. In May 2021, we had our list price to sell price ratio was 101%. Okay, that's a pretty normal, stat that we look at, that list to sell price ratio. Customarily, it dropped as low as 5%, something back, when the market was really down. But, traditionally it's somewhere around 97, 98%, right? There's a little bit of discount off of list normally. Well, we're at 101% in May. But it doesn't tell the whole story. And so what I did is I went into the MLS, extrapolated a bunch of data, and found that of all the homes that closed in May, which means these are homes that probably pended sometime in, March, April, let's say, late March and April, 50% of them sold for over list price. That is unheard of.
Yeah, it is unheard of.
And that is, very telling about what's going on in our market. And then, so Tracy, let me ask you this, because I'm sure some of you are going, well, why don't you just list them for more? Why aren't you just listing them at a higher price since they're going to sell for a higher price? Well, why? Why don't we?
Well, we could try, right? But what we have found is if we price them for the real market, people do pay more typically, but we don't.
When you say for the real market, what does that mean?
We're looking at historical data, right? We're looking at most recent sales in the area and saying, okay, a month ago, this house nearby was similar. It sold for X. So we're pricing it based on what is showing up.
Yeah.
But when we price them over that, we have seen over and over again, even in the last 2 months, right, Tigo, that the houses that we start too high end up getting price reductions. And I bet you have a stat for that.
Well, I was just going to say there were about 1,200, let's say, give or take, closed sales in the Albuquerque market in May. And there were, like I said, 50% of them sold for over the list price. 18% of them sold for 5% or more over list price. So it's not just like, a few dollars. We're talking...
Of the 15%, of the 50% that sold over list price, 18%.
No, of the 100%.
Of the 100% that closed.
Yeah, 18% of them sold for 5% or more. Yep.
Yeah, which is significant. When you think about a couple $100,000 house, 5% is, $15,000, $20,000 more.
So let's back up from this story and say, okay, we're hearing all these stories, Tracy. We know, 20, 30 offers on a house, people lined up on the cul-de-sac for an open house, home selling over list price. The stories go on and on about how frantic it is. Buyers that have written 10 offers and can't win a home.
And using the word win, I hate to hear that.
I know.
But be selected.
Yeah. Be selected as the one that gets to purchase the home.
Right.
Those stories are true and they're all out there. But there is a flip side to it. And the thing that I found interesting, there were about 200 homes that closed in May that at some point had a price reduction, meaning they did start too high. And that's what you were talking about earlier.
I knew you'd have a stat for it.
Of course I do.
So 200 houses in the last month, right?
Yeah.
That sold and closed had a price reduction while they were listed for sale. So
so that whole pricing strategy, it's not just about throwing any number out. There is a whole kind of art and science to it to net the homeowner the most amount of money that they can.
And so it's always hard for us to talk about ourselves and tout our own horn.
Well, let me just mention, we have the radio ad that we've been running on Eddie's station here for a while now, where you're talking about, don't just trust that, online algorithm to tell you what your home's worth, because every home is very different, right? Right.
And don't just trust that your realtor is going to do the maximum marketing to net you the most, right?
Yeah, because the truth is, stick a sign in the yard, put it in the MLS.
Take a photo with your iPhone.
Take a couple photos. depending on, what price you put on it, it's going to sell.
We have a really interactive, cool tool that we're using these days where somebody gets a floor plan when they click on our
Yeah,
properties
the
that we
virtual
list
tour.
for
Yeah.
sale. They click on the virtual tour. You can see the floor plan alongside the interior of that room that you can look around real time-ish like. And then you can click so you know how that room interacts with the other rooms and
Yeah.
everything.
That's
Yeah.
what I was going to say. Is anybody out there that, you shop for homes or you're looking for homes, you'll see a house and you'll start looking through the photos, whatever, 10, 20, 30 photos, whatever they are. And you're like going, okay, does that room attach to that room or does that go that way or that way? This eliminates that guesswork because you actually have the floor plan and photos side by side so you
And
can
it's
see that.
not just photos, it's immersive. Like literally the floor plan's there, and when you click on one of the rooms, it takes you to that room and you can navigate and scan and look up and down and all around and see where you're at in the house.
And it's interesting. We were having this team meeting the other day with our group here and just saying, okay, are we doing this with everything? And I said, yes. I mean,
We're not just doing it on luxury homes.
no,
right?
no. I think, our job is to get people the most money, net them the most money in their pocket when they sell the home. And so, this is a part of it.
And that's where I was going before. I was going to say, this is Tracy and Tigo Venturi with Venturi Realty Group, the #1 real estate group in New Mexico by number of homes sold in 2020.
We sold more homes in 2020 than any other group in New Mexico.
Despite other advertising that you might hear. So Tigo, we do more, right? I mean, there's a reason we're day after day getting more money for our sellers by the amount of resources we're using to invest in the marketing and making sure that the most number of buyers are exposed to a house that's for sale. And I looked up that house that Eddie was talking about on the cul-de-sac, and of course it did go pending. They were it was over the Labor Day holiday.
Yeah.
We were out of sell range a lot, and Eddie and I were messaging every time I was doing the whole standing around with my arms and legs in the air, trying to make sure that we could hear each other, and talked to the other realtor a few times and knew they'd already had a few offers and kind of where it was at. But of course, they said we're going to be looking at all offers on Tuesday after the Monday holiday. And yes, it did go into pending sale then. But I know from talking to the other agent that it's going to be one of those in the 50% that are selling for above list price. But, that's how the gems are. And that was a gem.
Yeah,
So.
Gems are gems. Tracy, I don't know if you knew this. I think you do. June is National Home Ownership Month.
I did not know that.
Well, there you go.
Now I know.
So, National Association, our National Association of Realtors, really wants to put a focus on home ownership and being a homeowner and how important it is to so many things. And I'm all about the financial, and I always talk about the financial benefits of home ownership.